everybody. It is
All right.
Friday night.
Yes, sir.
This is the Live Zone Primetime. I'm producer Chris. That is Tony.
How are we
P.
doing, sir? Good to see you.
A slightly
a little bit, yeah. You know, listen.
Unshaved.
Hey, you know what? Listen, I call it I call it kind of grizzly. You know, a little grizzly, little chiseled grizzly look going. And I got to tell you, man, I was on the Metro today, like usual, and I was really happy to see down at Metro Center. They were celebrating today. They had DJs down there. 50 years, my friend. Of Metro greatness. Truly, and I've been through a lot of Metro systems and transit operations. Boston's not one of the greatest, the T, and I love the T, but it's not that great. The MTA in New York, a lot of locations, but kind of compact, very tight. When it comes to DC, flawless across the board. I really can't find much of an issue when it comes to the Metro system. That's not me being biased. I just see through the great work in snowstorms, storms of all kind, and regular days,
well, a lot of people
always
give
there.
a lot of credit to the new in air quotes general manager Randy Clark. He is really
Randy's awesome. He's what I mean. I'm surprised he wasn't running for mayor.
Very hard to bring the transit system back to what a lot of people remember it being. They had a few years there where maintenance issues caught up with it, and there were a lot of, we don't have to go down that road entirely, but, obviously...
no, that definitely got fixed, and again, under Mayor Bowser and her team as well, they did a really wonderful job in terms of the funding side, as well as getting, helping Randy Clark in his position. But it'll be really interesting to see. He's one of the most popular, not politicians, but one of the most popular public figures.
Wouldn't mind if he decided to run for office.
They wouldn't. He should be the transportation secretary. I mean, and I hope the next, in 2028, someone brings him in.
We are starting tonight with transportation, but we are going from the trains to the airports because we have a little bit of breaking news here in the last few hours. First at 9. This is, I'm going to say good news for travelers, but I kind of use that.
Really?
Look, I use that kind of
very, very lightly.
The good news is the airports are back open. The ground stop has been lifted, but there was a ground stop. The FAA lifted that ground stop that temporarily shut down traffic at Reagan National, BWI, Dulles, Richmond airports, and I believe Charlottesville's regional airport as well.
All of them?
All of those airports, ground stops in effect earlier this evening. And Tony P., you can just imagine with spring break season being here, with some of these staffing issues that have already affected some of these airports, long lines, throwing a ground stop in at some of these airports can mean some travel chaos. A similar situation actually happened a few weeks ago. The FAA put that grounding into effect as a safety measure because of what they say was a strong smell at the Potomac track-on. Remember, a couple Fridays ago.
Yes, I was in the airport in Florida.
I was in the airport on Friday when
planes were stopped
as well. The FAA says there could be some lingering flight delays as a result of that ground stop. That's not a huge shock, if you can imagine.
No.
All of those flights kind of stuck
They
in
called it an
limbo.
environmental concern, I think was the statement. There was an environmental concern, so that could mean potentially more mechanical issues or another odor per se. It sounds similar. Maybe it just could be the same issue recurring again.
Yeah, so not welcome news to some passengers who have been stuck in security lines for hours because of those TSA staffing issues. I know you're going to have more on the DHS funding coming up in our rundown in just a little bit. But Fox 5 was at DCA a little earlier tonight and got a chance to hear from some frustrated passengers. Take a listen.
It's late. We're ready to be home. As it was already a late flight. We were going to be getting home around 11:30 midnight. Now we're not really sure what we're doing because we don't have a backup plan for this, and it's late.
And we were already on our way here. We were 8 minutes out when we got the text. So, yeah.
And so
that is so crazy. Ineffective, and that there's no backup in place or anything for anywhere else to pick it up, and that they had a similar situation already. Like, that should have been thoroughly scoped out and fixed.
And what's tough is that, like, they didn't really let us know anything.
Well, yeah, no.
It was just like on time, and then just gone.
And the fact that happened so many places. I don't understand how one building runs so many airports when it's like a literal risk of safety in the air.
Yeah, you heard that right there. Tom.
Pretty blunt and pretty accurate.
Saw a plane just take off.
So it looks like things are back to normal. Now, what's interesting, what's interesting, Chris, I think, and we were talking to Captain Richard about this a few times when he's been on here with some of the, of course, tragic situations that happened at DCA a year ago and other air traffic control related issues, as well as issues with the mechanics of how air travel has been going on in the last few years. And a lot of these things are patchwork based. A lot of these systems are very, very old. The computers, some of them have mainframes on them. I play golf with a couple of individuals that do some contracting work for the FAA and some of the computerized stuff. They are just starting to update those computers basically to 2020s era technology. Some of them have 1990s style mainframe technology for air traffic control, for some of the main headquarters bases, all those type of items. The technology's old and it's very patchwork based. And I think a lot of folks don't understand that because flying up airplanes pretty safe, right? Compared to driving a car. Again, it's a lot safer overall with the numbers wise.
Right.
But these systems are very, very old because they've been neglected. Similar, Chris, to when we talked about the piping issues in DC and the DMV area. We're starting to see some of the cracks happen in the systems, whether it be transponders on the ground at LaGuardia, whether it be situation with air traffic control and staffing and the funding of DHS and TSA within DHS. The system is very fragile, and I think people have to understand that this is part of it now, and we're seeing it, and a lot of travelers are thinking, am I safe? Now, of course, flying is very, very safe technically and all those type of things. It's still the envy of the world in terms of safety, but we have to understand that we're going to have to fund these things. These are kitchen table issues, from piping issues and infrastructure to airlines and technology.
We'll have much more on this story and the situation at the airports coming up on Fox 5 News at 10 and 11 right here on Fox Local. In the meantime, though, we do want to get to the other major story that we have been following today, Tony P. And I know this is one that you're a big golf fan. You are a Tiger Woods fan. Golf superstar Tiger Woods under arrest. The 5-time Masters champion was booked for driving under the influence. Authorities in Florida say Tiger's his Land Rover, rolled over after colliding with a pressure cleaner truck. We want to take you back to the sheriff's press conference for some more details, but you see Tiger standing there after crawling outside of his car in these still images. Take a listen.
Shortly again before 2, the pressure cleaner truck pulling a trailer, a small trailer, was northbound on South Beach Road and was pulling kind of to turn into a driveway. It was slowing down, starting to turn into a driveway, and the driver of that vehicle looked in his mirror and saw a Land Rover, a dark-colored Land Rover, overtaking him at high speeds, and I don't know those speeds. The Land Rover kept overtaking him. He saw it coming, so he tried to edge off to the side of the road, but this is a small 2-lane road, and there was no shoulder for this pressure cleaner gentleman to get off the side of the road. As he was trying to move to the side of the road, the Land Rover overtook him at the last minute, swerved to avoid a collision, but clipped the back end of the trailer of the pressure cleaner apparatus, listed to the side, and then rolled on the driver's door north past the truck that had just avoided the crash with. The individual driving that Land Rover was able to crawl out the passenger door of the car and was identified to be Mr. Tiger Woods. Our DUI investigators came to the scene here, and Mr. Woods did exemplify signs of impairment. They did several tests on him. Of course, he did explain the injuries and the surgeries that he had. We did take that into account. But they did do some in-depth roadside tests. And when it was determined, he was placed under arrest and taken to the Martin County Jail. At the Martin County Jail, and even on scene, we really weren't suspicious of alcohol being involved in this case, and that proved to be true at the jail. So Mr. Woods did a breathalyzer test, blew 000s, but when it came time for us to ask for a urinalysis test, he refused, and so he's been charged with DUI, with property damage, and refusal to submit to a lawful test. On scene, we had DRE experts evaluating him, and they believed from on scene that he was not impaired on alcohol. They believed it was some type of medication or drug. And again, at the jail, he cooperated with the he cooperated with the breathalyzer, and then the urine he wanted no part of.
Is there going to be any testing afterwards? What's the procedure with that to verify if he was under something?
So the question, will there be any follow-up testing? The answer is no. He has a right to refuse that test. There is a Florida statute which he will be charged with for refusing to take that test, but we will never get definitive results as to what he was impaired on at the time of the crash.
Is that also a felony, refusing to take the test?
The question is it a felony? The answer is no. Both charges are misdemeanor charges.
Is he being given preferential treatment in the jail because of who he is?
The question is he getting preferential treatment in the jail because of who he is? Let me go back to the simplicity of this. We're the sheriff's office. We know we arrested a high-profile figure. I'm not trying to dramatize, but it doesn't matter who you are. If you break the law, we're going to follow the law. That's a really easy path to take. Now, as far as being in the jail, we're going to make sure he's safe. We're not going to put him in general population. He's not going to be with other inmates that could hurt him or try to capitalize on what he did. He'll pay the price, but he's not going to pay the price by getting punished in jail.
Was there any drugs or medication or alcohol found in the car?
The question is, was there any drugs or medication in the car? The answer is no, there was not.
So Tiger was charged with DUI, property damage, and refusal to take a lawful test and booked into jail. Right now, you're taking a live look at the Martin County Sheriff's Office, the Holt Correctional Facility, where we believe he was
apparently he's still held.
Still being held at this hour.
There's been no reporting otherwise that he's been released or any pictures or anything like that.
No, so no one was injured in the crash. That is the good news here tonight. Tony P, though, I want to... we talked about whether we needed to book a guest on this segment tonight, and I said that, Tony P, you are our expert, so why not just come to you?
Yeah, no.
First of all, your first reaction when you saw this story, you heard this news today.
It breaks my heart because this harkens back very eerily to his 2021 incident in Southern California after the Genesis tournament, which he owns and operates in California. He was driving along the California hills at high rates of speed and rolled over. His SUV, broke both his legs, nearly passed away from that incident, was very badly hurt, and basically ended his golf career for the last few years because of that incident. And then seeing this today, that there was not only a rollover, but we're seeing another case where there's a DUI charge. Of course, we saw a DUI charge back in 2018 or early, I think it was 2018, I think. It was before he won the Masters in 2019 for that 15th major, the current one that he has. And just thinking about the situation, of course, you pray for Tiger Woods' safety, and it was family and friends during this time. But at the same time, you think about the danger that he has put some people in the last few times, whether it be the case in Florida in 2019 where he was arrested for being under the influence, and then this situation as well as the one in California. He was driving recklessly in these cases and potentially under the influence multiple times. And when you think about this, for someone with his wealth and stature, the fact that he does not have a driver that is with him, especially in two of these cases, the one in Florida when he was arrested in 2019 and this one, he had just had major surgery on his back and knees and was potentially using painkillers, which is very normal in those cases. I know a lot of friends that you get painkillers when you have major surgery to those type of sensitive areas. But the fact that he was recovering in both these cases and did not have a driver with him to help him get around and was driving recklessly, putting people in danger. In this case today, he was trying to get around this pressure vehicle, driving fast on a very tight 2-lane road, which is very tough to do in Jupiter, Florida. There's a lot of property there. It's very tight. There could be kids, driving their bikes around. You could hurt somebody. So all these things in place, I shake my head. I feel sorry for him, but then my sympathy kind of dries up a little bit when it comes to this is another case where he's done this. And my question is, when do you learn your lesson? I mean, you're Tiger Woods. You are a mentor. You are a role model to so many young golfers, as well as just young people generally. And you're hailed by so many as a great athlete and a great ambassador for the game, who's also made an incredible recovery in terms of how he's been with fans and been with the tour players since he had his infamous 2009 personal transgressions. So I don't get this, Chris. I really don't. It just makes me very, very sad.
I know a lot of people feel the exact same way. And if he is struggling with any sort of addiction issues, if that ends up being the case, I know a lot of people hope that he gets the help that he needs. Tony P, let's talk about...
Oh, completely.
Obviously, all of the things you have said, 100% true. But for a lot of people, too, we have to talk about Tiger Woods, the golfer.
Yeah, of course.
We literally just talked the other night about the possibility of him making a comeback to the Masters.
Yep.
Do you see this impacting that in any way, shape, or form?
I do, because not only that, he just played 2 nights ago at the TGL, which is the indoor golf league that he has co-founded with Rory McIlroy and others. He was playing and he was hitting the ball well. He looked like he was ready to play. However, President Trump said on Fox News that he had talked to Tiger. He's probably not going to play the Masters, so that was out of the picture. So I don't think this is going to impact that at all. He did say, but there was reports that he was entering the U.S. Senior Open, which is later this summer, which is for the 50 and over PGA Tour and those type of golfers. So I think in that case, it could set him back a few months. I don't think you see competitive golf from Tiger Woods throughout this year. I'd be very, very shocked if that's the case, because if what you're saying is true, Chris, and some others are of course talking about the fact, does Tiger Woods have potential substance abuse problem with these cases being so consistent? President Trump on the tarmac in Florida when he was arriving after his trip from D.C., he mentioned that Tiger Woods is a great guy, he's a wonderful friend of his, but he may have some difficulties, unquote. So is that the president maybe alluding to that? We don't know that. I don't want to speculate at all. But if that's the case and he does try to get some treatment for what's going on with him, you could see this going into next year, potentially. He doesn't see the course again. But overall, Chris, my view is that you'll probably see Tiger Woods, if anything, more on the senior tour, maybe playing the Masters for the next 10, 15 years, like you've seen other golfers like Jack Nicklaus, Tom Watson, Fred Couples do this. But I don't see him playing full schedules or even half schedules because his health is not there, and it seems as if potentially he may have an issue, but he's also a dad. He's taking care of his kids. His son Charlie's an excellent golfer.
I was just going to say.
So he's an excellent player. So I think maybe more of the shift is to coaching and being a mentor. His TGR Foundation does a lot of great work for charity, for literacy rates and activity and all that, and really helping marginalized communities. So I think Tiger Woods overall is going to be okay from his own legacy perspective. I just hope that he gets the help that he needs if it is a problem.
No question at all.
I don't want to ever put that on somebody if it's not true.
We understand
but
that.
I could see it being true potentially.
In the meantime, you see that live picture from that Holt Correctional Facility. If we get any updates, if we get any news that Tiger has been freed, we will bring that to you over the course of the next 43 minutes or so. In the meantime, though, we do want to move on, though. Tony P., let's talk about some of the other stories that you have been keeping an eye on today. And we're starting again with the DHS because we mentioned that was
I got it right here, my friend. I mean, I got to tell you, what's really interesting about all this is that it's almost like a never-ending saga, my friend. And we are, of course, going to begin with DHS today. So the big funding deal, we've been talking about it, Chris, all week. It's now 42 days into the shutdown, and it just got more complicated. Overnight, the Senate did pass a bill in the early morning hours to fund most of the department, but carved out money for ICE and Customs and Border Protection, all those things. But this morning, Speaker Mike Johnson shot it down, calling it a quote-unquote joke, and announced the House will instead vote on its own 60-day stopgap bill to fund all of DHS, including ICE and CBP, through May 22nd. Senate Democrats have already declared the version dead on arrival, meaning the underlying shutdown has no clear path to resolution, with Congress now heading into a 2-week Easter recess and both chambers miles apart potentially. To at least, prevent another missed paycheck for TSA workers, though, President Trump did sign a directive today ordering the agency to start paying its employees immediately, with DHS saying some of those checks could come out as early as Monday. So we basically have a patchwork situation here, Chris, where you have the president signing executive order and then Congress miles apart now after it looked like he had some bipartisan agreement with Senate Majority Leader John Thune leading the charge. It could be also divides in the Republican caucus down the line as well, too, my friend. Also, a serious new allegation coming out of the Pentagon. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth personally, allegedly, removed 4 Army officers from promotion for a 1-star general position, 2 of them black men and 2 of them black women. According to reporting from the New York Times, and confirmed by NPR today, the move was highly unusual because under military policy, the Defense Secretary is only supposed to approve or reject an entire promotion list, not pull individual names from it as he did here. Army Secretary Daniel Driscoll had repeatedly refused Hegseth's request to remove the officers, citing their decades of exemplary service, but Hegseth ultimately struck the names himself. The Times also reports that Hegseth's chief of staff told the military leader that the president doesn't want the president did not want these names either, potentially. So that's another, situation there. The Pentagon is calling the reporting fake news, unquote, insisting the promotions are based on a meritocracy, while Senator Jack Reed, ranking member of the Senate Armed Services Committee, called the allegations outrageous and said if they're accurate, the move would be illegal, unquote. So again, you have the White House potentially being a part of this and the Defense Department. Also, an assassination plot was foiled in New Jersey overnight. The FBI and NYPD arrested a man named Alexander Heifler in Hoboken, New Jersey, after an undercover officer personally witnessed him making 8 Molotov cocktails with the alleged plan to throw them at pro-Palestinian activist Nurdin Kiswani, co-founder of Within Our Lifetime. Heifler was taken into custody on a weapons charge before the attack could happen, and Kiswani confirmed on social media that the FBI had informed her that she was the intended target. Officials say there is no ongoing threat to the public at this time, and the investigation is continuing. In Atlanta today, a federal judge heard arguments in the case over the FBI's January seizure of more than 650 boxes of 2020 election ballots from Fulton County, Georgia. An election expert testified with 20 years of experience that the evidence the FBI used to justify the raid doesn't make sense, unquote, saying the witness statements the government relied on were contradictory and reflected a fundamental misunderstanding of how elections work. Quote unquote, there was no basis in reality for most of the witness statements, unquote, he said. The judge appeared skeptical of Fulton County's push to get the ballots returned and has not yet ruled in the case. Also, a bizarre scene at Philadelphia International Airport this morning where a Secret Service agent assigned to former First Lady Jill Biden accidentally shot himself in the leg while sitting in an unmarked vehicle near Terminal C just before 9 a.m. today. Former First Lady was at the airport, but not in the area where it happened, and no one else was injured. The agent was treated at the scene and taken on to a nearby hospital and is in stable condition tonight. And the Secret Service's Office of Professional Responsibility will now initiate an investigation. On the business front, Netflix is raising prices again, Chris, the second time in less than 2 years. The ad-supported plan will go from $7.99 to $8.99 a month. The standard plan will jump from $17.99 to $19.99. And the premium plan, which I have, climbs from $24.99 to $26.99 coming up. New subscribers see the new prices will see the new prices starting today, with existing members being notified based on their billing cycles. Netflix says it plans to spend more than $20 billion on content this year, up from $18 billion in 2025. And executives have long defended price hikes by pointing to how much people are putting back into the platform, and their overall teams are making the platform better. So they're saying better quality, more prices, I guess. Not exactly the greatest justification there, Chris. Now, here's some good news, though, for anyone who misses the seatback screen on your American Airlines flights, because the airline is seriously considering bringing them back. American removed the screens from its narrow-body fleet nearly a decade ago to cut costs, but is now in talks with SpaceX, Starlink, and Amazon for a full overhaul of its in-flight Wi-Fi and entertainment, which could also include Amazon Prime content and the option to shop using miles while you're flying. The decision could come as early as next month and driven largely by competitive pressure from Delta and United, both of which have spent years investing heavily in their onboard products. Last night, the iHeart Music Awards took place over the Dolby Theater in Hollywood, and Taylor Swift made it her night once again. She walked away with 7 of her 9 nominations, including Artist of the Year for the 3rd year in a row, bringing her all-time iHeart total to 41 awards, the most in the show's history. She also made her award show about her fiancé, basically a debut with her fiancé Travis Kelce, and thanked him during her acceptance speech. John Mellencamp received the Icon Award, while Miley Cyrus took home the Innovator Award, and Ludacris hosted while picking up the Landmark Award. You scared me there, but I heard you say that. It's funny. Performances also came from Ray, Kalani, and Lainey Wilson, also along with a nostalgic set from TLC, Salt and Pepper, and In Vogue. I love Salt and Pepper. Like 80s and 90s royalty, in my opinion, okay? I would like to see Babyface there. I'm also a big fan of his music. But you know what? All those bands, fantastic. In a conversation with Extra recently, John Hamm made clear, and I know you interviewed him recently, that he has no interest in revisiting the Don Draper role anytime soon. When asked about the growing chatter around a potential Mad Men reboot, what isn't being rebooted these days, Hamm was direct. Quote unquote, I've aged out, he said, and the Emmy and 2-time Golden Globe winner played the iconic Ad Man, of course, for 7 seasons from 2017 to 2015, and has long maintained the show ended exactly as it should. He was on the road, of course, promoting season 2 of his Apple Plus series, Your Friends and Neighbors. You talked about that. Was that also an issue that he brought up, or no?
We talked about some similarities between Don Draper and Andrew Cooper. But
I like that.
You'll get to see this full interview coming up.
Can't wait. Finally,
week.
My final one for you, the security guard at the center of the Chappell Roan fan drama in Brazil is now speaking out. Pascal Duvier, the same bodyguard who worked for Kim Kardashian during her 2016 Paris robbery, posted a statement saying he takes full responsibility for the March 21st confrontation with soccer star Jorginho's 11-year-old stepdaughter at a Sao Paulo hotel. But it was clear that he was not part of Roan's personal security team and was at the hotel on behalf of somebody else entirely. Roan has already denied any involvement, saying she never saw the girl or her mother during breakfast that morning. Jorginho's wife has pushed back, arguing that regardless of who sent him, celebrities bear responsibility for those acting in their orbit. Now, another piece of this, too, we've been hearing a lot of chatter, especially from other celebrities. Lionel Richie today on a podcast, and was picked up by Page 6, said that when you become a star, and Bethesda was referring to the Chaperone case, that you should be able to like people, because the people are what drive your success and drive your monetary climb, if you will. That's important. So I get what they're saying. Oh my God, yes.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you at all. You know, this is a complicated situation where
It is.
who deserve their privacy at the exact same time. You know, what obligation do they have to the fans? So, you know,
Billy Bob Thornton talks about it all the time, too.
Tom Cruise mentioned it in Congress.
Yep, oh, he does.
But I understand we live in a different world than the one that Tom Cruise, you know, became famous in. I see both sides of the issue.
I think a big one, for women stars, to a lot of women stars that I've met, you know, through my social media, that they get a lot of fear because, of course, like, you know, when they're alone or they don't have security and, like, you know, people come up to them, they get a little nervous because, again, you know, it's different. You know, it's a different experience. And as a guy, like, I don't experience the same thing as an experience in the public.
The bodyguard's there for.
So I understand that a lot of women celebrities go through a lot worse stuff in many situations. I have that sympathy. But I think for an 11-year-old person, I think you can make it acceptable.
Let's see what Spinderella's up to. There she goes. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, though, we have to talk about the Sweet 16 because it is taking over DC this weekend. Kelsey Nicole Nelson, our award-winning sports journalist, is going to join us live. Tony P, don't even look, but that Duke St. John's game wrapping up as we speak.
Who's winning?
We're going to have to find out.
Come on, I got to look this up now.
On the other side of this commercial.
Who is winning?
We will be right back. Tony might be disappointed. I'm going to say that.
Oh, they lost.
Kelsey, it's Chris. Can you hear me?
I can. Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can. All right. Hey, where are you right now?
I'm actually home. I'll be there.
Okay. I just wanted to, before I said that. Okay, cool. Well, we'll be coming to you in 30 seconds.
Okay, cool. Sounds good. Thank you.
Tony P is still rocking it out.
Still singing Salt and Pepper, baby. Listen,
right.
Oh yeah. Push
any
it real
other
good.
I can get ready for our next commercial break.
I mean, Babyface. Anything Babyface? Absolutely. That's a big one. Who else? I mean, I like a little Leonard Skinner now and again. Also, Dionne Warwick.
Talking about specifically Salt and Pepper. Basically,
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Let's talk about sex, baby. Let's talk about.
Okay.
Let's not talk about sex. Let's talk about the Sweet 16 because the action continued tonight, and it did so right here in the DMV because Duke and St. John's hit the hardwood at Capital One Arena just a few hours ago. That game just wrapped up, so let's not waste any time. Let's find out from our expert who won, because she's been watching it while we've been yapping our mouths off. Kelsey Nicole Nelson, award-winning sports journalist, joining us now live. Kelsey, who won?
My gosh. Well, you know what? Maryland fans, you might want to cover your ears on this one because I know it still hate Duke, but Duke pulled it out. And honestly, which was a very good game. Lots of back and forth, lots of lead changes. But Duke, Carlos Boozer was there to watch his twin sons play in that game.
Wow.
But, Cameron and Caden. But all in all, St. John's gave it their all. And look, Rick Pitino, folks, was 12-1 in Sweet 16 games. I mean, that was not an easy
That was
feat.
a
St.
shock.
John's actually had a heavy
right
presence.
Here is heartbroken.
I like Rick.
Sorry,
Not because
Tony
he's
P.
a notorious F Duke, but he was going with Rick Pitino.
Oh, my bracket's now busted
my gosh,
100%.
I'm so sorry.
No, I mean, look, I understand, of course, he did some bad things at Louisville, 100%. I mean, some awful things with some of the recruiting. But I think he's making a comeback, and he's trying to lead those players in a good direction. I just think that speech he gave that went viral just had me all fired up before the tournament.
I know. He's a great coach. Like, let's
He
not
is.
take anything away. St. John's fans were heavy in DC, but I'll tell you, Tony P, what went wrong was a couple things. One, Duke getting to the foul line, especially in that first half.
Yeah.
That helped them. And then paint points, Tony P, the front court, that matters in basketball. And Duke being able to obviously get that advantage. In the first half, they had 22 paint points. St. John's had the three ball going for them in the first half. They were 9 of 18, but in the end, it just wasn't enough. And we all know if you love basketball, you live and die, by the three. But Duke pulled it out. It was honestly, the games have been great, so I appreciated the game. But yeah, we lost a great coach, but we still have lots more great basketball. So what a treat for the fans.
100%. Now let me ask you this one, so Kelsey. So when you think about the overall next step for Duke as they go to their tournament game, the Elite Eight, does this game give them a really good boost, or are there certain parts of the game they need to be worked on so that they don't get upset potentially in this next match?
Yeah, the problem is there's so many good teams left. One of the big storylines going to the Sweet 16, Tony P, is the 3 Big Ten teams that we have featured in the Sweet 16. So, I know when it comes to Big Ten, we're usually talking football. Now we're talking basketball.
Oh, yeah.
But I think the big thing for Duke, Isaiah Evans is the name that everybody needs to remember. Duke's leading scorer right now. He goes by the nickname Showtime Slim, and he showed that tonight for a reason. But I think they're definitely going to need, just multiple scorers. Now, Cameron Boozer, of course, he's expected to be a top 3 draft pick. We know Wizards fans might be looking closely to a lot of these games as well. The Wizards sitting at a 17-55 record, so they need all the help that they can get. But, at the end of the day, and, I know Alabama, I haven't even got to see the finish of that game, but they're like the top scoring team left in the tournament. But at the end of the day, you got to score, Tony P. Like, Duke is going to have multiple scorers. I think the good thing, Cameron Boozer was able to rebound well. Obviously, that's big as well. You need the offensive rebounds. But, I actually think that Duke could potentially go all the way. I mean, again, St. John's that was a hard team to knock off, and it went down to the end of that game. You had to keep watching, and St. John's actually had held a slight lead, and then all of us, Ejiofor, my gosh, like a beast. But at the same time, they were able to give him difficulty on the defensive end, and defense is going to be the big thing. Like, defense is the thing we're talking about in that UConn and Michigan State matchup. You're talking about 2 teams that can play defense well, so that's the other thing. Like, who can really put on a defensive effort if they want to take it home? So again, Maryland fans, don't hate me. I'm a proud Terp, but Duke looked pretty solid tonight.
So you mentioned Michigan State, UConn. That is the next game here in DC. They hit the hardwood at like 9:45, I think. Right now, Michigan, number 1, taking on number 4, Alabama. 9:20 left in the second half. Michigan leading 73-60. So a pretty sizable, not insurmountable.
No.
Stranger things have happened. But talk to us a little bit about this game.
Yeah, let's let everybody knows. Michigan obviously was the favorite, going into this. I know Michigan. When you talk about a team that's very well balanced, it is Michigan. I think the biggest thing though here again, I don't think we get to talk about Alabama enough. I haven't heard a lot of people, talking about them in general. But again, top scoring offense, folks. I mean, this team can put up 90 points easily, as we got to see throughout the season. So all in all, to say, I think if Michigan is able to pull this out, Chris, I do think, and many people had them as the favorite in their brackets. I do think Michigan, again, is going to be a team. You talk about defensive player of the year. You talk about, again, just offensive scoring. Michigan is a scary team. So, again, I think that game is not getting as much hype because, again, we know how big Duke is. But that game I am watching closely, and I do want to see who pulls it out. But that's another game that, again, we could have a potential champion that we're potentially watching that might get to, sing to the one shining moment at the end of the day.
Look at you.
Like a genie. 2 brackets. I have Michigan winning both, but I also had Houston going to the championship.
Right.
So that didn't work out.
Houston was a heartbreaker. You know, once
but
again,
they give me the rope-a-dope every single time, so it's really a shame on me situation. I should know better.
They fooled you twice.
Oh my gosh, yeah, Houston. I feel for Houston
So
fans,
do I.
right? Like for them, it's been normalized, right? Because we know they're that good. It's the 7th consecutive time they've been able to get there. They actually weren't playing far from home as well, right? So you think about the crowd and that playing a factor as well. But Houston just not able to get over the hump. You think about the heartbreaker last year. You think about what Houston has in their star point guard. A lot of people excited about him. Another potential NBA lottery pick that we're talking about. But their stars were really just held. I think 11 points was the top that their stars had, right? So anytime again. We talked about it, Tony P. If you can't score on offense, it's going to be hard to win those games. But Houston, I feel like they'll always be that close. I just don't know if they'll have soon what it takes. Recruiting is going to be really crucial for Houston because they got to get some players to help them get over this hump. We know they're talented, but at the end of the day, no one cares if you're not bringing home that championship trophy.
Well, you've always said it's about the endurance part of this tournament. Again, that's why anything can happen, right? It's so many games. You have the season before it, all of that. Now, one of the games, of course, we're watching is, of course, Iowa State versus Tennessee. Now, when looking at that match, what are some of the X factors that you think is going to be important in who wins this one? Because, again, Tennessee also, you know, from years past, definitely a team to be reckoned with. Now they're back. We're kind of seeing their resurgence. Do you see them pulling off an upset against Iowa State today?
Yeah, you know, I think the fun thing about Tennessee, like when it comes to Tennessee basketball on both sides of basketball, both men's and women's, right? Again, we know just a solid basketball program. Another team that many thought could potentially win. But honestly, Tony P, a lot of people weren't talking about them, you know, this season. I think a lot of the narrative, and I'm sure we'll talk about this, was around, you know, Arizona and the Arizona Wildcats. And that's another team I know that a lot of people are talking about when it comes to offensive wise, because they just destroyed Arkansas. By the way, folks, remember that was my pick, and that game did not end, you know, in the way I think that a lot of people had, especially when the Arizona team was playing against, you know, Darius Acup Jr. Another person that we're looking at when it comes to the NBA, you know, somebody that's having a hot season. He just signed that Reebok shoe deal, something that we don't usually get to see, and then the men's collegiate games. So all that to say, you know, I think Tennessee is another team that I'm scared about. I honestly, Tony P, don't have them winning it all, but you know, just as we talk about Iowa, my gosh, like Iowa basketball, you know, right now is very, very hot. I think a lot of people have underestimated the teams from Iowa. I know before on the women's side, we all knew Caitlin Clark and the women's side of Iowa, but what Iowa has been building and the talent that they've been able to bring in and recruit is something to watch out for, Tony P, for years to come.
All right, so looking ahead to the Elite Eight tomorrow, we've got Iowa and Illinois, we've got Purdue and Arizona. Who does Duke want to face?
Oh, that's a hard one. Again, Illinois is a team that not a lot of people are talking about, but Iowa right now, I think Iowa's interesting. They're a number 9 seed, Chris. Number 9 seed. We don't get to see that usually when
pretty
it comes,
high.
you know, right to this term of basketball. And I think, you know, especially after they beat Nebraska, this is just the 9th number 9 seed we've seen reach the Elite Eight. So all that to say, I think they've been underdogs. Ben McCullum, their head coach, he was on the Pat McAfee show, you know, earlier, just getting a lot of praise about, you know, the team chemistry, what they've been doing. Coach K, by the way, we know the legendary Coach K, really talking about, you know, how important he is. And Ben has honestly won a lot at the D2 level. There's been questions about if he can win at the D1 level, and we're continuing to see that. So I don't know, I think there's a lot of questions around Iowa. So maybe that would be the team I'd want to see, because I think we're still not sure. I mean, they're still a team emerging before our eyes. Chris and Tony P, this is the team right now being called the Cinderella team of the tournament right now. Again, you look at where they are and you just look at the hype going into the Sweet 16 tournament, and probably only people in Iowa probably actually put them to win it all. So I guess that would be the team I want to face. But at this time of the year, we know this is where stars are born, right? Like, right. I mean, I still just remember like last year when we were talking about Derek Queen and that Maryland squad and what they were able to do. So I think this is why I love this time of year. This is why I love this basketball. But it's just honestly, there's no team that you can sleep on right now. So if you're watching March Madness, again, this is great basketball on the men's and women's side. I watched a great Notre Dame women's team win earlier. They're also another team that got over the hump. So basketball fans, we're just in for a treat.
And just a couple, one question about the Final Four, then I'll ask you about the women's tournaments. I want to know what the dynamics you're looking at there as well. Who could be that surprise team for you? Always in the Final Four, you find that one team that doesn't always, like, it isn't the same puzzle piece as some of the others, right? And they're a higher seed, for example. They play a little bit differently than the other 3 teams. What surprise team do you see making it out of all of this from Sweet 16 to Elite 8 and into the Final Four.
Yeah, I'm glad Chris talked about Illinois. I think this, again, is a team that not a lot of people are talking about, but this is their 11th Elite 8 appearance in Illinois basketball, the Illini. It is a thing, and what head coach Brett Underwood is doing, I think, is special. So I think that's a team that a lot of people need to look out for. That's a team that a lot of people, I think, if you haven't watched the basketball, go back and watch the tape. They're very surprising, but again, a team that I don't think, especially in this area, we don't get to talk about enough a lot. But when it comes to basketball, they know what they're doing. So I think that's a team that really would continue to surprise people if they are able to continue on.
And for the women's tournament, I want to hear kind of what are some of the X factors you've been seeing throughout this tournament. Just a kind of couple of quick ones for folks. Again, I'm not a big March Madness person. I watch both a little bit, but like just what's it been looking like mechanically on the ground level of the women's tournament right now, and who do you see potentially being those teams that are going to really rise to the top at the end of this?
On the women's side, it's easy. It's UConn, right? Like, that's the team to beat. 52 straight wins heading into the game today. They finished easily. It was slight work for them against that UNC squad. They have Sarah Strong, who is one of the best women's player in the game right now. Ozzie Fudd, who, of course, this area should know very well, being one of our own from the DMV area. And then UConn, we know, breeds, championships. Like, I think Coach Gino, he eats, sleeps, and breathes winning. Like, it's ridiculous, how good that UConn squad is. But again, Hannah Hidalgo in that Notre Dame squad, she had 31 points, 10 steals, 11 rebounds. She was just short of a quadruple double, which is ridiculous when it comes on any side of basketball. And again, Notre Dame finally being able to get over the hump for a long time. They kept stopping there, but finally they've been able to advance on to the next round. And so, I think it's going to be interesting what Niele Ivey and Hannah have forged and bond. They had 3 returning players. This is special what they've been able to do, and especially in the age of NIL. I think that's what folks have to really realize, that the rosters that these teams are returning, it's so hard to retain players. And again, the WNBA draft will be coming up next month, and then we have the NBA draft. So this is especially a time now, too, when we're starting to hear the names. And I think especially on the women's side, a lot of the top picks, the top 10 picks that we're projecting are still playing, and I think that's exciting. So all in all to say, I think if you're not watching the women's game, you're doing yourself a disservice. I know folks sometimes say, Kelsey, I get tired of seeing UConn winning, but do you know how hard that is to be undefeated for this long? You think about injuries and, again, the talent changes. But UConn truly is the standard. And again, here we are again with UConn's men's and women's teams once again still playing ball late in March.
It's like watching the old Patriots win all the time and get to the AFC title game. It's just truly.
Tony, it's over it. It's been years.
And where is Connecticut? New England. No, but I think what's really, again, I just think the women's game is so much fun to watch. And again, if you aren't watching it, you are doing yourself a disservice. Let me ask you this. Do you think Notre Dame has the intangibles and the scoring ability to go up against the ladies from UConn?
That's the thing, and it's going to be hard because the problem is, Tony P, they need more scorers. Hannah is great, but you put so much on a main scorer. And look, let's be honest, people have an off day. You can get into foul trouble early, right? There's so many different tangibles, that can happen. I think that's the problem. It's going to be who else can help score, who else can help, step up. And I think that's going to be the biggest thing for them. But when it comes to UConn, again, I just think they have and look, don't get me wrong, they need Sarah Strong and they need Ozzie to have big games.
Everybody has to work in tandem.
Exactly. But UConn truly is the team to beat. We knew that going, into it. And again, once again, they proved it, on the floor. But the fact that they can get it done in the paint, the fact that they can get it done behind the arc, my gosh, UConn is just that standard in women's basketball, and they've done it for so long. And their players continue to show up, Tony P, in the biggest moments.
Yep.
Kelsey, Nicole, Nelson, thank you so much for spending some time and lending your expertise to us here. Have
Always
fun at the
pleasure.
Elite 8 tomorrow, because I believe you will be down there for it.
I will.
Nice.
I'm so excited. So please, fans, if you're there, come and say hi.
I'll be there Sunday.
I wish we had some local teams in it. Yeah, on Sunday. Yep. So I'm excited to be back this weekend. Excited to see the fans, but I will say Capital One Arena is a good amount of fans in the area going, so it's great to see. Again,
I'd love to see it.
But it was great to see the fanfare, that was there. I think we're just excited for college basketball, being at an all-time high.
No question at all. Kelsey, if people want to follow you, how can they do it?
Yeah, Kelsey Nicole Nelson is my website, and at The Real K Nelson. Always a fun joy to join you all.
Yes,
and also, I have to say congrats to fans for both the Nats and O's winning their opening game.
Opening day, yeah.
Fun time for sports fans.
It's going to be a great season on all fronts.
Fingers crossed. All right, Kelsey, thanks so much. Have a great weekend.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Have a good one. Bye.
And Tony, also some DMV representation at the Sweet 16 this weekend. 4 DMV area alums playing in the games, in the action. Chad Ricardo got a chance to highlight some of them, so you can check that out on fox5dc.com. So, Tony,
interesting stuff.
We have almost made it through the weekend. We've got about 15 minutes
we almost
left.
done.
We know what that means. We usually check what is new to stream this weekend. We're going to do that coming up on the other side of the break. First, though, we're going to head out to Capitol Hill, where once again the House is in session. Tony P is informing me about some breaking news. We'll have that for you on the other side of the break as well. But right now, the House back in session, continuing debate over the DHS funding effort. We're going to leave you with this live picture. If you are watching on our YouTube page, if you're watching on Fox Local, we'll take a quick 2-minute break. We'll be right back.
Yeah, so you gotta be sure to confirm that.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything on the wires, but. Oh, Maria, it's Chris. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Hello.
All right, great. So we're going to come back. We're going to do a quick update on what's going on. Then we'll dive into some of the new streaming options, and we'll bring you in towards the end.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you. So this is the...
Accepting the language. Section 4, explanatory statement. The explanatory statement regarding this act, printed in the House section of the Congressional Record on or about January 22nd, 2026, and submitted by the Chair of the Committee on Appropriations of the House, shall have the same effect with respect to the allocation of funds and implementation of this act as if it were a joint explanatory statement of a committee of conference, except that all contents printed under the heading U.S. Immigrations and Customs Enforcement, that's what they want us to want you to think it's about, U.S. Immigrations and Customs Enforcement, and border security operations. Border security operations under the heading U.S. Customs and Border Protection shall have no force or effect for purpose of this act, an amount specified in the final bill column under the subheading Border Security Operations, not just ICE, but Border Security Operations under this heading, U.S. Customs and Border Protection, and under the heading U.S. Immigrations and Customs Enforcement, and the Department of Homeland Security Act of 2026 table shall all be
All right, welcome back to the Live Zone Primetime.
That is what you're demanding, is that we zero out Customs
House
and
floor
Border
on
Protection
Capitol
so that
Hill,
the
where
border can be open
lawmakers
the way you want it to be
continue,
open,
again,
the way
like
you
I said,
did it
Tony P, not quite burning the midnight oil, but they continue to debate over the DHS funding, which at this point, no closer to...
It could be in peril.
Yeah.
It basically is at this point. I mean, when looking at the battles, not only among Democrats and Republicans, but the Senate and the House, this has always been a problem on Capitol Hill, is that the Senate's viewed as more moderate, and in the House, with Speaker Mike Johnson having such small majorities, that just a few votes can upend everything. And so this is definitely going to be an issue. And the problem is, they're arguing back and forth, and we're putting TSA workers again in harm's way. The issue over ICE and CBP can still be debated at a later date, but just not TSA. I understand why the House doesn't just pass the Senate bill.
We'll stay on that story, of course, and bring you updates as they come. I mentioned that Tony was showing me some breaking news before we went to our commercial break. That one coming from the New York Times. They're reporting 12 U.S. troops were injured in an attack from Iran on a base in Saudi Arabia. So we'll have more on that story as we get more details as well. But Tony P, we have made it down to the final few minutes of the Live Zone Primetime on this Friday night, and you know what that means. You know I love to talk about some options to stream this weekend, and tonight we are starting off with a little bit of a throwback. Don't call it a comeback, but the comeback is back. It's been 12 years since fans last got a season of the HBO satire co-created by and starring Friends star Lisa Kudrow. You see her right there. This time around, her sitcom actress Valerie Cherish is starring in a new comedy entirely written by AI, because that's exactly the sort of thing that she would do. You can catch new episodes of this one streaming Sundays on HBO Max. I'm always fascinated when, 12 years in between seasons, I have to imagine that, like, they must have just had an idea and they were like, oh, we have to do this, type of a thing.
And
But
again,
Lisa Kudrow
making it back, again, having a comeback moment herself, doing this sitcom and being on the front of it. And I think what's really interesting too is that she really embraces what she calls her own cringe. I hate that word per se. I know
you do, Tony P. But
I think it's nice that Lisa Kudrow embraces her just.
This is one of those cult shows, though.
Yes.
I will just say, and HBO does them better than anyone else.
And usually will expand to more mainstream audiences with HBO doing it. And I think Lisa Kudrow has a chance to also help expand that too.
For the superhero fans out there, Daredevil is born again. Season 2 of the Marvel hit picks up right where Season 1 left off, with blind lawyer and secret vigilante Matt Murdock gathering allies to fight back against the villainous Mayor Wilson Fisk, played by Vincent D'Onofrio. This one stars Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio, brings back Kristen Ritter as the character Jessica Jones, who had her own show that was like a spin-off in this Marvel Cinematic Universe. Right. If you can follow along, congratulations. You are better than me. The first episode of Season 2 is streaming now on Disney+. I have not watched this one yet, but this is also one of those ones, remember, Netflix had the rights to some of the Marvel stuff. Now they've brought it in to the full MCU Disney version of it. All right. Next up, on Prime Video, we have Bait. Oscar nominee Riz Ahmed gets to show off his comedy skills in this series. In it, he plays a struggling actor with one last shot at making it in the big leagues when he books a special audition for a role that ends up being James Bond. Right? But the moment word gets out, his entire life changes as everyone around him tries to get a piece of his success. All 6 episodes of this one are streaming now on Prime Video. If you're a fan of the horror, we've got Something Very Bad Is Going to Happen. It's executive produced by the creators of Stranger Things, the Duffer Brothers, follows a couple in the lead up to their wedding day. But, Tony P., as the title suggests, something very bad is going to happen before they make it down the aisle. This one stars Daisy Jones and the Six actress Camila Morrone and White Lotus actor Adam DeMarco. All 8 episodes streaming now on Netflix. Apple TV Plus has Season 5 of All Mankind. I have not gotten into this, but this is a space drama. This time around, it happens to be set in the year 2012, years after the Goldilocks asteroid heist. So if that means something to you, great. This one stars Joel Kinnaman, Sean Kaufman, and more. Season 5 premiere streaming today on Apple TV. And then, Tony P., just in time for Lent and Easter, Prime Video has Season 2 of House of David. This one tells the story of the young shepherd turned warrior turned king who may be best known for his biblical battle with the one and only Goliath. So, for this one, Tony P., I wanted to bring in an expert. You might know her as true beauty advocate O. Maria from the Lion Zoom Room, the DUI Lion Zoom Room. But tonight, she joins us live. And O. Maria, you texted me about this series, and what I thought was interesting is you said that this is not just for fans of faith-based action. It's giving a little Game of Thrones as well.
Yes, absolutely. 1,000%. Anyone who's a Game of Thrones fan, anyone who loves a story of just family dynamics, drama, betrayal, estrangement, love, brotherhood, bonding, realizing your potential, coming into your own self, and really growing to know that the giants around you are not giants. It's just a mindset shift, and really you knowing, I can do this. I'm capable. I'm enough. So anyone who loves Game of Thrones or really wants to enter into the new month just with a more fresh mindset, I would say House of David. When you get into that house for Season 2, you're gonna have a Davidic mindset, man. Yeah, I've seen it, and I don't like series. So for me to sit down and watch an entire series, that says something.
In terms of this series, and I'm also the same way, I like things to be a little bit more of a movie, one thing, I'm in and I'm out. Does this series come at you immediately with some plot points or morals of the story, or do you have to wait a little bit and it builds up?
From the first 5 minutes, you will catch drama and you will be glued to your seat to know, like, all right, hold on now. Why is there drama so soon? I thought the story has to go, there's like an arc, or however, when stories are made, there's an arc and then the 3 parts. No, when you begin, you see the drama, you taste it, you can cut it with a butter knife. Yeah, and so for anyone who is impatient, which I might be, I'm recovering, you will be very satisfied because first few minutes is like, hold on. And the thing is, I don't even think I finished season 1 because I don't like series. But season 2, I was able to grasp, okay, these two don't like each other. This probably doesn't trust this one. This one, I can't trust her with a 10-foot pole distance. So it hits you in the beginning, in my opinion, from what I've seen.
So, of course, the story of David, not beyond just the David and Goliath story, beyond just Michelangelo's David. David, of course, in the Bible is supposed to be, Jesus Christ is supposed to come from the house of David. So how much Bible history and knowledge do people need to know going into this series, or can they kind of learn it as they go?
You can learn it as you go, because to be honest, I'm not too conversant, and I used to be a nun, so forgive me, Mother Superior. Maybe that's why I'm no longer in the monastery. But I don't know, to be honest, I don't know much Old Testament, meaning before the coming of Jesus. I don't know much historically outside of some poetic parts, some poetic books like the Psalms. So I would say you would be very fine going in there just looking for something that's relatable where you can see yourself in the characters. There is definitely violence, I will say that much. So if someone is like, if you can't take a little bit of a sword, some sorting, it might be good to put on some extra layers of glasses. So you don't need to know the Bible. You don't need to. If you just love a good story, love story, brotherhood, estrangement, drama, betrayal, coming of age, I think you'd be fine.
Oh, Maria, we're down to our final 2.5 minutes. So I know you got a chance to talk to some of the cast and crew. If people want to check out your interviews, where can they go to do it?
They can go onto YouTube and search you got to put the @ symbol to really grab it. And the word beauty, the word full as one word, and then people as the second. So beautiful people, but beautiful, one word, people. Smash them all together with the @ symbol, and you can grab them all. And they'll be in an album for House of David, so you can easily see the playlist and then just browse through. And if it tickles your fancy to go grab an episode from Prime, you can do so.
That's awesome. My final question, a quick one here. For a lot of these religious dramas or movies, sometimes have historical inaccuracies or biblical inaccuracies. Is there a lot that people can learn biblically from this series in an accurate way?
Definitely. I would say it's in line with Scripture, along with additional artistic top coats to make the story not be just completely as if you are reading from 1 Samuel chapter 1 through the rest of the book. So it is true to biblical narratives, and it adds on extra creative depth that those who just love a good story will really appreciate. So it's half and half, half and half milk, but it's yummy. It's yummy.
I love it.
Just in time for Holy Week. On the way.
Yes.
Oh, Maria, thank you so much for spending some time with us here on the Live Zone Primetime on this Friday night.
Thank y'all. See y'all again.
All right. Have a great weekend.
So beautiful. I love that name. That's great.
Yeah, so a lot of new options. But of course, everyone's going to be watching March Madness here in the DMV. And keep it locked right here to Fox Local. A lot of protests planned tomorrow. These No Kings protests. Yep. We will have complete coverage with Julie Donaldson right here on the Weekend Live on Fox Local, streaming on Fox Local and on Fox 5 DC's YouTube page. Tony P, not quite warm enough this weekend to necessarily get back out there on the golf course.
No, I mean, maybe on Sunday, 61 degrees. Again, Mike Chalmers can confirm all this. But tomorrow, for No Kings, I think it's going to be mostly by the White House areas. I think 15th to 17th streets are blocked off.
Yeah, there are a lot of, you can check out our website for all those details as well.
And it's going to be a little bit cold. So if you're going out there, I'm going out there. It's just be warm. Put a coat on and be warm, and also, of course, be safe. Listen to all the safety guidelines from the city as well as from organizers. It's all posted online, so just be safe out there and exercise First Amendment right in a very safe
Johnson
way.
has said
Thank
no
you to everyone
to a
who joined us
bipartisan
here
bill
on
so
the
he can
Live
say
Zone
yes to
Primetime. We're
continuing
going to
to
leave you,
inconvenience
taking you back
millions
out
of
to
the
Capitol
American
Hill,
people
where Representative
across the
Hakeem
country. Mike
Jeffries is
Johnson
now
has said
speaking.
no.
in
to a
defense
bipartisan
of the
bill
DHS,
so House Republicans could
excuse
say
me,
yes
about the
to
DHS
chaos
funding
at
fight.
airports
Have a
all
wonderful
across the
weekend.
country.
Fox 5
Mike
News at
Johnson
10
has
coming
said
your way
no
next right
to
here
a
on Fox
bipartisan
Local.
bill
We'll
so House
see you back
Republicans
here
can continue to say
Monday.
yes to ICE brutality. Mike Johnson has said no to a bipartisan Senate-passed bill so House Republicans could continue to say yes to ICE violence. Mike Johnson has said no to a bipartisan Senate-passed bill so House Republicans could continue to say yes to the corruption that we've seen at the Department of Homeland Security. Mike Johnson has said no to a bipartisan Senate-passed bill that would reopen the Department of Homeland Security so House Republicans could say yes to the Freedom Caucus, which is clearly driving the train here. And it was amazing to me that at the Rules Committee, you had some Republican members try to lecture America about Article 1 and separate and co-equal branches of government. Really?